The quest for immortality is at the core of the motivations for a ton of Star Wars villains, especially among the Sith, or people with visions trying to keep their wives from dying in childbirth and who then become Sith. But while Sith essence transfer may be the most famous means of achieving effective immortality, another species reached the edge of immortality in the Legends continuity through other kinds of technological development, and the best news is that they were willing to share that technology with the rest of the galaxy, sort of. The developers of the technology we're talking about today are the Ssi-Ruuvi Imperium, a faction made up of two different dinosaur-like species first introduced in the Truce at Bakura novel. These species were the Ssi-Ruuk themselves, the primary citizens and administrators of their empire, with scales of different colors denoting their position within society, and the brown-scaled Puek, which were generally somewhat smaller and which were enslaved by the Ssi-Ruuvi. Ssi-Ruuvi seemingly hadn't developed what we might think of as conventional forms of power, which kept the rest of the galaxy moving. Instead, their technology worked through a process called entchment or entchment, where living beings were hooked up to a machine which drained their life force to use as essentially living batteries. The worst part was that being used for this power would still allow you to be conscious in some form. So if you were powering a fighter, you basically just lived as that starfighter until your energy dried up and you died, released from the agony that enteched souls lived in. There is actually a picture of the entechment process, but as this is a book-centric topic, there's unfortunately not many other related visual aids for what we're going to be talking about today. The Ssi-Ruuvi's leader, called the Shriftut, was contacted by Palpatine, appearing first through Force visions, and a deal was struck between the Empire and the Ssi-Ruuvi Imperium. Palpatine was interested in the Ssi-Ruuvi's entchment technology, as well as some other elements of their tech, like powerful shields, while the Ssi-Ruuvi were interested in something Palpatine had plenty of: excess worlds full of the most powerful batteries of all, humans. Force-sensitive humans were especially good sources of life energy. So Palpatine secretly allowed the Ssi-Ruuvi to pick away at colonies on the outer edge of the known galaxy, blaming the rebellion when fingers needed to be pointed. But after Palpatine's death at Endor, the Ssi-Ruuvi tried to invade a much more prominent world, Bakura. This was happening days after the Battle of Endor, and an uneasy alliance between the rebels and Imperials pushed the Ssi-Ruuvi back, leading to a multi-year war on the Ssi-Ruuvi's expanded empire by the New Republic on one front, and the Chiss or Empire of the Hand on the other, which I've covered in a bit more detail on an animated campaign map breakdown. This ended the Ssi-Ruuvi's expansionist dreams for decades, but behind the scenes important developments kept happening. Politically, socially, and religiously, the most important event was the birth of the Kiramak, a Ssi-Ruuvi with scales of multiple colors, an event prophesized in the Gnok, which may sound a little bit like a delicious meal but was in actuality the holy book of the Ssi-Ruuvi. The Kiramak was larger than the average Ssi-Ruuvi, genderless, and was raised for leadership from their earliest days, becoming Shriftut probably around 18 years after Yavin, though I don't think we get a super solid date on their ascension. By the late 20s ABY, though, the Kiramak and the Ssi-Ruuvi made another play for Bakura, while the rest of the galaxy was embroiled in the Yuuzhan Vong War. Knowing many of the planets in the New Republic were suckers for a good rebellion story, the Kiramak convinced the Bakurans that he had led the Puek in an emancipation movement, overthrowing the old regime and forming a new Puek-run political entity, which could ally with the Bakurans. Some actual Puek, like one named Lwathan, were used in this deception still against their wills, but another important element of this plan was for many Ssi-Ruuvi to be present and just literally paint their scales brown to look like Puek, tricking Bakurans who apparently couldn't tell the difference. Alongside this new alliance, the Pueks, or the Ssi-Ruuvi, were offering those who were willing the chance to become enteched, claiming that they had made massive strides in their unfortunately still necessary technology. They claimed it no longer hurt or caused any level of pain or discomfort, so it was put forward as a way for those who might be ill or just wanted to voluntarily serve as a battle droid battery for eternity to do so, with some not great eugenicist implications in the former case. The Jedi who were present at Bakura while the new alliance was in process of being formed, Leia and Jaina Solo, were able to sense in the Force that this at least wasn't a lie. Entechment had become both far more efficient in terms of energy used, and it had in fact become as painless as the Puek or Ssi-Ruuvi were claiming. More importantly, they even found out it came with the opportunity to like this video and subscribe for more on the road to 60,000 subscribers for Corey's datapad. Unfortunately for the Bakurans, the ceremony to formalize the alliance turned out to be a ploy to consecrate their planet, a religious ceremony which allowed Ssi-Ruuvi to invade without fear of being trapped away from their afterlife, a big factor in why they didn't typically want to land a big invasion force. During the ceremony, they also gave Bakura a new Ssi-Ruuvi name, Shui, so it was revealed that the Pwek revolt had in fact never happened at all, despite the prophecy that the Kiramak would uplift the lower castes. As this was revealed, some of the paint was even washed off the fake Pwek, really calling into question how much effort they'd put into these disguises. In a roundabout way though, the Kiramak did turn out to fulfill the uplifting part of the prophecy. Now assisted by Jedi allies, a task force from the New Republic military, and the Bakuran Defense Fleet, Lewathan led the Pwek in a new, real alliance with the New Republic forces to take down the Ssi-Ruuvi who were invading Bakura. While this didn't immediately free all the Pwek, it began the process of a true potential Pwek revolt, although unfortunately this wasn't followed up on in any novels or other lore sources after the events of Force Heretic 2 Refugee, so we have no idea where this ultimately goes. In that book, even the death of the Kiramak had been revealed to be part of a plan by a faction of Ssi-Ruuvi, seemingly led by a general named Athena, who turned out to actually be a Yuuzhan Vong in disguise as a Ssi-Ruuvi, trying to destabilize the Ssi-Ruuvi the same way the Vong had done to the rest of the galaxy. To the point of the video though, one of the, in my opinion, more interesting implications of the Ssi-Ruuvi technology was revealed after the ploy had failed. The Bakuran Prime Minister, Kundertal, had been assisting the Ssi-Ruuvi, knowing it was all a trap, but he had agreed to be entched, and believed everyone should agree to do it as well. Rather than being his flesh-and-blood self in the events of the book, a droid replica had been built of his body, and he'd been entched to power it. With the improvements to entchment no longer causing pain and significantly improving efficiency, the act of simply powering a droid for a force which could power entire starships for years could have meant an effectively indefinite lifespan, as long as you didn't get your body destroyed. Unfortunately for Kundertal, he decided to press Athena for a refund on the credits he had paid to have his replica droid body made, an expensive process using manufacturers formerly involved with the Rebel Alliance in Project Decoy, where a very realistic copy of Princess Leia had been made before. In response, Athena activated a restraining bolt they had secretly installed on Kundertal's droid body before slicing him to bits, one of the few ways that Kundertal could still die. So again, we have the story of a Star Wars character who gets to the edge of immortality only to get too greedy and give it all up. But interestingly, other than the cost of his specific, very lifelike droid body, this is something others may have been able to attain more reasonably than the essence transfer abilities of Sith Masters. In fact, a Jedi named Nikos Mar had even done a similar thing with much worse technology earlier on, a few decades before, when he was suffering from a wasting disease, though it was unclear if his version would have allowed him to live for quite such an extended period of time, as his body was destroyed soon after. Either way, that's going to do it for today. Remember to leave a like and subscribe for more if you've enjoyed, and special thanks as always to the patrons whose names you're seeing on screen right now for making these videos possible.